Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Danielle Snyder, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker and a health coach. And I'm really excited to talk with you about, probably one of the most important topics that exists out there, and that is sleep. And this is presented to you on behalf of Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare. So, if anyone has taken a presentation with me before, you're going to know that I start the same way, regardless of topic. It may change up here and there in regards to what type of meditation I offer, but I always like to start with meditation. One of the reasons why is because meditation is so essential to our health and well-being. And I know it can be kind of like a buzzword right now, like, oh, do your meditation. But it truly is a really good opportunity to pause, tune in, and breathe. And as I will talk about as we get started on this program, one of the main reasons people have trouble sleeping at night is stress. And so a lot of stress relieving opportunities can be found through meditation. So I'm going to ask you guys to do what you can to kind of get grounded and centered in the moment. So that means maybe turning over your phone, putting it on silence, doing anything that can kind of take away any distractions. Shut your door and get as comfortable as possible. I want to take a moment to relax your body. Soften any unnecessary tension in your belly or shoulders. Find a posture that feels both relaxed and alert. And if you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes or not. You can just look downwards and rest your hands in an easy, effortless way. Let's take a few moments, scan your awareness through the sensations of your body, and wherever possible, soften and release obvious areas of physical tension. Aware of your body breathing, your chest rising and falling with each breath. And now imagine standing in the street outside of your house with two heavy suitcases. I know that one of those suitcases is full of worries about the future, and the other suitcase is full of regrets about the past. Take a moment standing there in the street, holding these two heavy suitcases, and reflect about each one. Reflect about the future, how it will come on its own accord whenever it comes, and that most of what we worry about will not happen. Standing out there in the street, reflect about the past, the other heavy suitcase. Consider how the past cannot be changed. All we can do is be present and learn from it, put in whatever corrections make sense, become more skillful, become a better person, and move on. Standing there in the street, feeling the weight of these suitcases and absorbing the wisdom of your own reflections right now, make a conscious decision. Do you want to drop the suitcase of worry about the future? If so, simply drop it. Just drop it. Then standing there in the street with the other suitcase so heavy about the past, let's make another conscious decision. Are you ready to drop that? And if so, open your hands and release it. And as soon as you have dropped both suitcases, walk into your home, take your seat, and plop down. So relaxed. Like someone coming home from a long trip, dropping suitcases and relaxing. Rest in the present, just breathing, resting in the natural well-being of your nervous system. It is not uncommon that thoughts and worries will try to come back into your brain. And if you see them, simply acknowledge them and release them, just as you did with the suitcase. Allow yourself to simply rest, feeling a sense of joy, peace, and well-being. Within you exists a natural happiness, always your true home, without carrying heavy suitcases of worries about the future or regrets about the past. Simply sit here for a few seconds, allowing that total relaxation. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and return the moment. So what we just did was a 5-minute meditation. And while your brain still may be all over the place, or your brain was all over the place during the meditation, it is an opportunity to allow for some quiet. One of those go-to things I personally do if I'm having trouble sleeping is I turn on a meditation. There are so many available through YouTube, or really, I mean, there's Calm, there's all these apps that exist that sometimes your health insurance will even pay for. And you can just turn it on and let it relax your body. What can often happen when we're having trouble sleeping, I am 100% guilty of this, is I look at my phone. I look at how fast time is going and how slow time is going. And I calculate how many hours of sleep I've gotten, how many hours of sleep I need to function. And then I think about, oh my God, I have to be up in 2 hours. Do you think that helps or hinders your insomnia? It definitely hinders, because you're just like, stress is coursing through your body and your brain. One of the things that often helps calm me is thinking that like resting is also really good. We don't have to essentially always sleep in order to recharge. Sure, it's not the best long-term solution, but it is okay short-term solution, that resting in bed is okay. So we're going to talk about insomnia, clearly. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. And yeah, so I like to start by sharing the definition of insomnia. So the actual definition is persistent problems falling and staying asleep. Symptoms can include difficulty, like once you fall asleep, like you're waking up a lot, or waking up not feeling rested. There are lots of treatments for insomnia, which generally I trend towards the opportunity to improve sleep habits and treat underlying causes. In desperate situations, there are sleeping pills that can be provided, but I try the behavioral interventions before the medication, because most cases of insomnia are due to poor sleep habits, depression, anxiety, lack of exercise, and sometimes can be certain medications. One of the biggest causes of insomnia is stress, which I often find not helpful sharing that, because clearly you already know that you're stressed and it's impacting your life. But I don't necessarily know how I don't necessarily know that people understand the impact of stress on their body and how much it influences your ability to sleep. So that is actually another reason why I like to offer a meditation, because it helps us manage our stress. So there's a lot of opportunity to improve our sleep by what we are doing during the day. Insomnia can show up in how we're managing day-to-day stressors. It can impact how our ability to pay attention. It can impact our mood. It can impact our anxiety. So it's pretty heavy if you are struggling with severe insomnia. So oftentimes when we think about insomnia and we're thinking about the causes of it, I like to kind of point out how and what that looks like for people. When we are concerned about work, school, health, money, family, our mind can be super active at night, and that can cause us to stay up, which is why stress is such a huge impact on sleep. If we are traveling or we work irregular hours, it is not abnormal for your body's internal clock to be confused. And so some of these symptoms or concepts I'm talking to you about are, you should think about this when you're thinking about, am I having trouble sleeping? Because if you are having these challenges before sleep, then it's something that you can work on. So knowledge is power. It can also feel a little overwhelming, but without kind of going through them and thinking, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that, I am eating too much late in the evening and that is impacting my sleep, you wouldn't know that you could fix it. So we're going to kind of go through those. So stress, travel or work schedule, eating too much late in the evening. I am not saying you shouldn't eat before bed, but that belief system has been disproven. It's okay. But a lot of times if you eat something heavy or too much, you can cause heartburn. And so heartburn can keep you awake. Something to be aware of. What am I eating before bed? A huge factor in insomnia is poor sleep habits. I love talking about this because as a kid, not we all, but most of us had bedtime routines. I remember I was really bad at bedtime. And so we had wow, so many years ago, but we had like a little chart and I would have to like go downstairs and check off what I was doing to help me kind of wind down. And as adults, at some point, we stop following a routine, most of us, and it makes it hard for our body to wind down. And so going to bed at different times, waking up at different times, taking too long of naps, working right before bed, watching TV in bed, using computers, smartphones, video games, or any of electronics before bed is proven to impact your sleep cycle. So we'll talk about that in the next couple of minutes about how to work on that. But those are just red flags that your sleep could be negatively impacted if you are not following a routine, as silly as it sounds. Another thing is caffeine, nicotine, and alcohol. They are three main causes of difficulty sleeping. I know that it can be really, really uncomfortable to stop drinking coffee at, a certain time, but like for me personally, I can't drink coffee after noon. Alcohol may help you fall asleep, but it definitely prevents deeper stages of sleep and result in waking up in the middle of the night. Nicotine as well is a stimulant. And so these are some things that like we know impact our sleep, but can be really challenging to break. Again, I'm not saying you need to fix all of these things at once, but the more you are aware, the easier it's going to be to start to fine tune and tinker. Another thing that I do like to point out is as you age, sleep can become more difficult. And this isn't necessarily a negative thing as much as it's information. So being aware that if you are getting older, you may need different sleep patterns, or if you're taking any different medications, they may impact your sleep. If your activity level has changed, it could impact your sleep. So first and foremost, before we start to work on sleep hygiene, I like to really encourage people who are having difficulty sleeping to talk to their doctor. Not to ask for medication, but to make sure there's no underlying underlying condition happening, like sleep apnea, which can make it harder to sleep, and make sure that there's no medication that could be impacting it. It's always great to rule out physical changes first before you move to then the behavioral changes. So now let's start to talk about what you can do to start to improve insomnia. And this is tricky, right? Because it's like you're already tired if you're experiencing insomnia and you're already frustrated about it. And so I do like to remind people to take this with a grain of salt, and you can pick and choose what works for you, knowing that some things are going to be more impactful than others. If you are drinking caffeine at 5 p.m., changing that is going to be really impactful. So one of the things that I talked about in the beginning was routine. Routines are really good for our bodies because they're habitual and they're comforted through it. I know it can be really, really difficult to do this, but keeping the time you go to bed and the time you wake up every single day, including the weekends, is amazing. Because if you are sleeping until 10, let's say, and expecting that you're going to fall asleep at 9 p.m. on Sunday night, then to wake up at 6 a.m. the next day, your body is not going to be ready to go to bed. It's going to be like, nope, you let me sleep in too late. I'm not ready. And then that starts that stress cycle. So keep the times the same, even if you're tired. Another thing that could be really important is staying active during the day. We are sedentary because we're working a lot. Our schedules are busy, but our bodies need movement. It doesn't have to be a lot to start to make big changes. So you could park further away in the grocery store to the grocery store entrance. That counts as being active. You could do some stretching. That counts. Being aware of the caffeine, alcohol, and nicotine use. Making sure your bedroom is comfortable for sleep and only use it for sex or sleep. I know that can be silly, but we really just want to associate the bedroom with sleep. And then start by creating that bedtime ritual. So for me personally, when I am struggling to be my most effective sleeper, I have a bedtime and a pre-bedtime ritual. So right around 8:45, which I know is early for a lot of people, but I wake up super early, I start my pre-bedtime ritual. And so for me, that means turning off electronics, drinking some tea, non-caffeinated, and reading a little bit. And I do that every night. So my body is kind of tuned in. Okay, we're getting ready to sleep. It knows. When we're thinking about getting into bed and we then do have trouble sleeping, there are tools and techniques that you can utilize. So if you're having, let's say you just notice that your stress is higher beforehand, before bed. One of the go-to things that I like to do is journal. So if I'm having like a stressful day, I'll just have a little journal and I'll write down all the things that are stressing me out. I know that that takes time, but the truth is that if we don't get it out of our brain and our body, it is just going to keep swirling in our head. So on days that are feeling a little bit more stressful or tiring, I will journal before bed. When I get into bed, in my sleep routine, I often listen to a meditation and then try to fall asleep. So here comes one of the trickier parts about sleep training. If you are having trouble falling asleep for more than 45 minutes and you're tossing and turning, get up, which I know feels really counterintuitive, but staying in your bed, getting frustrated, struggling does not help. So get out of bed, do something calming. It can be a great time. You could drink a cup of tea if it's not going to impact your bathroom and then you're going to need to pee more, but something like that. You could read something boring. You could do some light yoga, light stretching. You could just go sit in another room, pet your animal if you have one. Give yourself 20 minutes and then try back. Go back to bed and try again. Listen to meditation, see if you can fall asleep. If you can't, repeat the same pattern. Get up, get out of bed. You may be wondering and thinking to yourself, like, how is that going to help my sleep if you're telling me to get out of bed? But the reality is sitting and getting stressed out about sleep in your bed does not help. You will just keep ramping up. Cortisol will increase, and then you'll feel worse because you can't figure out why you can't sleep. So you repeat the pattern of like, okay, if I can't sleep, I'm not going to stay here, force myself. I'm going to do something quiet and try again, which is very different than going to bed at different times. It's you go to bed at the same time and then you get up if you can't, and then you try again. This will help keep your bedroom not as stressful. And it will help your brain get back on track if you're starting to dysregulate because you can't sleep. Generally speaking, covering up your clock can be really helpful too. And doing what you can to normalize if you're having trouble sleeping. A lot of times we panic, and that fuels this anxiety that makes it more difficult. So, sleep routines, real important. Having balance in your life, really important too. When I am teaching people about sleep hygiene and making sure their phones are out of their bedroom and there's, it's comfortable sleeping temperature, colder is better. I wish it was just related to sleep. But the truth is that stress all throughout our life impact our ability to sleep. So if, you have unrealistic expectations for your day or of yourself, you aren't fueling properly, or you're not eating enough, if you're not moving, if you feel unappreciated, if you don't have social support, all of those day-to-day things can really start to impact your relationship with sleep, which is interesting because we don't think about that when we're sleeping. So I just had a question that asked any supplements that could help sleep. So magnesium, again, I would not take it unless you talk to your doctor and make sure there's no interactions with that. But magnesium can be really helpful. There's this powder form of magnesium called Calm, which can help you sleep. And then I believe there is, it's called valerian root tea, which can also be really helpful for sleep as well. Again, I would just check it out with your doctor first before, just because I'm not a doctor and I don't know all of the implications of it. So one of the things that I like to encourage people to do is making sure that they're doing stress relieving activities throughout the day. There are grounding techniques that you can do that help your brain come back online if they're feeling stressed. And things like a couple times a day, just kind of checking in with yourself and making sure you're taking care of yourself can help your sleep overall. If we just wait until bedtime, it can be super stressful to then just turn everything off. So I want you guys to take a quick thought. Sorry, a text just came into the group chat and I was reading it while I was trying to talk to you. So I'm going to answer that in a second, but I want you to take a quick pause and think about right now, what would it look like to add a sleep routine? What is one thing or two things you could do tonight? And to the question that's in the text, which says, do we need to test for magnesium deficiency before taking magnesium? As a whole, I just always encourage people to talk to their doctors before adding any supplements because you just don't know. And I think that it's just overall best care to talk to them and see what they think. If you are feeling encouraged and you want to put into the chat the one thing that you're going to do to help sleep better, you can do that. If not, I'm going to encourage you to talk to someone in your life about the new steps you want to take to manage sleep. I like to start with one thing rather than a billion different things, even though I threw a billion different things at you. But in order to make habitual change, it is easier to do one thing at a time. So start with breathing throughout the day, or start with having a regular bedtime. Tell your family about it. Tell your friends about it. Silence your phone. You can even put on do not disturb. And it's a great way to start to create patterns of managing insomnia. Insomnia is really serious, but there are a lot of opportunities to manage it and help yourself feel better. You're not alone in this. And I think that it's really, I know it's like one of the main challenges right now for a lot of people. It's very stressful to not get good sleep. But insomnia, with the right care, can be managed and helped. I wanted to make sure that I saved 2 minutes for questions. And if you have, does anyone have any questions? All right. Well, I appreciate you all for coming in today. And I want to encourage you to manage the things that you can manage and release the rest. Okay, we do have a question. How do you help when waking up too early? Well, I mean, one of the questions is first of all, what time are you going to bed? Are you going to bed too early? If you're not going to bed too early, I would kind of go through that checklist of, is my room dark enough? Is it a good temperature? Am I having distractions? Am I anxious? Can I stay in bed when I wake up and try to go back to bed by using a meditation? And if you keep waking up too early, I use that as my wake up time. So if it's like 30 minutes too early, I would get out of bed, start my day. Now, if it's a couple hours, then I would practice try to get out of bed, do something calming, go back to bed and try to go back to bed. Your body will adjust eventually if you keep working on it rather than like fighting it in bed. So let's say your wake up time is 6 and you keep getting up at 4:30. You try a couple of times to go back to bed. You still can't go back to bed. Even after getting out of bed, doing something calming and coming back to bed, start your day. Eventually, your body will be tired enough that it will sleep past that point. If you are not getting too much sleep and your room is like cool and calm. So I'd give that a shot and see if that helps. Yeah. Thank you all so much for coming. It was wonderful to talk about my favorite subject because I love sleeping when I can do it. And good luck on getting a good night's sleep tonight. Take care.